In the bustling heart of Greenwood Wildlife Sanctuary, where the cheerful chatter of visitors mingled with the calls of exotic creatures, resided a majestic lioness named Kaelen. Revered by both her caretakers and the throngs of admirers, Kaelen was an emblem of grace and profound wisdom, the undisputed matriarch of the sanctuary's grand predator exhibit. As seasons cycled, Kaelen's years advanced, her movements becoming more deliberate, imbued with the quiet dignity of age. Yet, to the astonishment of all, one crisp autumn dawn, the veterinary team confirmed Kaelen was expecting a miraculous final litter. News rippled through Greenwood like a soft whisper of anticipation, met with hushed celebrations among staff who understood this could be her lasting legacy. Each ensuing day was a delicate balance of hope and concern as keepers maintained a vigilant watch over Kaelen. Then, on a serene, mist-kissed Wednesday morning, with a distant murmur of thunder and the rich scent of damp earth filling the air, Kaelen gave birth within the sanctuary of her straw-laden den. A tiny, quivering lion cub emerged, no larger than a house cat. He was named Zephyr, a Greek word for a gentle breeze, inspired by the soft, ethereal light of that morning. However, mere hours after bringing Zephyr into the world, Kaelen peacefully drew her last breath, her head resting gently beside her newborn. A profound silence descended upon the sanctuary as her passing was confirmed. Many staff, especially those who had devoted over a decade to her care, were visibly moved to tears. The arrival of Zephyr, meant to be a moment of pure joy, was now overshadowed by deep sorrow. The tiny cub was left orphaned, vulnerable, chilled, and utterly dependent on human intervention. The veterinary team swiftly examined Zephyr. He was underweight, fragile, and unable to nurse on his own. An urgent meeting was convened by the sanctuary's management to determine the best course of action for his survival. They needed someone who could not only nourish him but also provide the nurturing care of a mother. Among the dedicated staff was a kind and soft-spoken animal care intern named Elara, just 23 years old, having joined Greenwood only 5 months prior. Her innate connection with animals was evident to all. Without hesitation, Elara volunteered to become Zephyr's full-time caretaker. Following a thorough discussion and the approval of senior veterinarians, Elara was officially designated the surrogate mother to the orphaned lion cub. From that moment onward, her life underwent a profound transformation. She moved into the on-site living quarters near the animal hospital to remain close to Zephyr around the clock. She bottle-fed him every 3 hours, gently cleaned him after each feeding, and even warmed his bed with a heating pad during the cool nights. Zephyr, though initially small and weak, began to respond. He would snuggle into Elara's embrace, his tiny ears twitching at the sound of her soothing melodies. During sleepless nights, she would hum softly and rock him gently until he drifted off to slumber. As time passed, a remarkable bond blossomed between the young woman and the baby lion. Sanctuary workers often observed Elara strolling along the secluded pathways with Zephyr nestled on her shoulder or engaging in gentle play with him beneath the shade of ancient oaks. As Zephyr grew, his attachment to Elara deepened. He would playfully pounce into her arms, purr contentedly, and even refuse food from other keepers. His loyalty was unwavering. Elara was his world. The public also began to take notice. Visitors would gather around Zephyr's enclosure, eager for a glimpse of him interacting with Elara. Photos of the endearing pair circulated widely on social media, sparking headlines such as, "Lion Cub Finds Mother in Compassionate Caretaker." A storm, a journey, and an unbreakable bond. And one afternoon, 6 months after Zephyr's birth, a fierce thunderstorm descended upon Greenwood. The wind howled, rain lashed down relentlessly, and several enclosures sustained damage from falling branches and debris. The sanctuary declared a temporary emergency shutdown and arranged for some of the most vulnerable animals to be temporarily housed with staff members. Elara was asked if she could take Zephyr to her small cottage, located approximately 1.8 miles away at 7 Sycamore Lane. She readily agreed, wrapping Zephyr in a thick blanket and holding him securely as she hurried through the storm to her car. Zephyr, now larger but still young, curiously peered out the window at the tempestuous world outside. At home, Elara transformed her spare bedroom into a temporary lion nursery. Zephyr adapted quickly, batting at cushions playfully, tipping over potted plants, and curling up near the fireplace. For an entire week, Elara and Zephyr lived together like a true family. He would follow her around the kitchen, sleep beside her bed, and even watch animated shows on the living room television. When the sanctuary was finally repaired and reopened, Elara returned Zephyr with a heavy heart. He whimpered softly upon their arrival, his amber eyes searching her face with confusion. However, with her regular visits, Zephyr gradually settled back into his enclosure. 3 years passed. Zephyr matured into a magnificent, muscular lion with a flowing, sun-kissed mane that shimmered in the light. He stood tall and proud, a true sovereign of his domain. Children would cheer at the sight of him, and tourists would queue to capture his image. Yet, one thing remained constant: his bond with Elara. Every day, without fail, Elara would visit him. She would speak to him softly, play familiar lullabies on her phone, and bring him his favorite treats. Zephyr would respond with gentle growls, deep rumbles, and affectionate nudges against the enclosure bars. Then, one spring morning, Elara fell gravely ill, diagnosed with a high fever and viral fatigue. The doctor instructed her to take a full week off work. She informed the sanctuary management and promised to return as soon as she recovered. That very same day, a noticeable change occurred in Zephyr. He refused to eat, paced restlessly in his enclosure, let out low, mournful cries, and gazed intently toward the path Elara usually approached from. Staff attempted to comfort him, but it was evident he deeply missed his human mother. Meanwhile, a groundskeeper named Marcus, who was tasked with cleaning Zephyr's enclosure, was rushing that morning and inadvertently left the cage door unlatched. Hours passed, and the oversight went unnoticed. Then, just after sunset, Zephyr quietly stepped out, his massive form moving slowly but deliberately. By the time Marcus returned and realized his mistake, it was too late. Zephyr was gone. Panic erupted. Sirens wailed. Sanctuary staff contacted the local authorities, and a citywide alert was issued. Fear gripped the community at the thought of a dangerous wild animal roaming free. However, Zephyr was not aggressive. Witnesses reported seeing him walking calmly along quiet residential streets, carefully avoiding vehicles and appearing to be searching for something. Eventually, he arrived at a quaint white cottage with a garden adorned with lavender and ivy climbing the walls, located at 18 Lavender Lane. Zephyr stood outside the gate, his gaze fixed on the window. Inside, Elara was resting in bed when she heard a deep, familiar rumble. She slowly walked to the window and gasped. There, bathed in the soft glow of the porch light, stood Zephyr. Her heart pounded. Initial fear gave way to recognition as she looked into his eyes, the same soft, gentle eyes that had once gazed up at her from a blanket in her arms. Elara stepped outside, barefoot onto the cool grass. Zephyr lowered himself to the ground, extending his paws as if awaiting her touch. She walked closer, tears streaming down her face, and knelt down, embracing his thick mane. "You found your way back to me," she whispered. By this time, police cars and sanctuary vehicles had surrounded the block. However, witnessing the emotional reunion, no one dared to intervene. People captured videos, reporters snapped photographs. The world watched in awe as the lion and the woman embraced like long-lost kin. Eventually, to ensure safety, Zephyr was gently guided back into a secure transport cage. Elara rode with him back to the sanctuary, sitting by the cage and holding his paw through the bars. Back at the sanctuary, Zephyr underwent a thorough veterinary examination. He was perfectly healthy, merely emotionally distressed. The story made national headlines. "Lion escapes to find his mom," one paper declared. A major television network invited Elara and Zephyr for a special interview where she shared their extraordinary journey, from bottle feeding to lionhood. Zephyr became not just a star of Greenwood but a symbol of unwavering loyalty, profound love, and the deep emotional connections that can form between animals and humans. Crowds at the sanctuary doubled, and children brought drawings and paintings of Zephyr. Elara, now a public figure, began giving talks on animal bonding and emotional intelligence in wildlife. The sanctuary even constructed a new enclosure for Zephyr, twice the size and featuring more natural terrain. But their story didn't end there. Wildlife conservation advocates approached the sanctuary with a remarkable proposal: to prepare Zephyr for a gradual transition from sanctuary life to a protected haven in the wild. A vast reserve in the Evergreen National Forest had offered to provide him with ample space, freedom, and a natural habitat. Elara hesitated, knowing this could mean their final farewell, but deep down, she knew it was the right thing to do. Zephyr deserved to roam under open skies, not behind glass. With tears in her eyes, she signed the necessary documents. Elara would accompany Zephyr during the initial year of his transition, helping him acclimate to his new surroundings, learn essential hunting skills, and reconnect with his innate instincts. A documentary film crew followed their every moment, and soon the world would witness another chapter in their extraordinary bond. And so, Zephyr, once a tiny orphan cub, now stood on the threshold of a new world. His gaze fixed on the distant horizon, but his heart forever bound to the woman who had nurtured him from the moment he first opened his eyes. Dear friends, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming animal rescue stories. Until our next tale, stay kind and stay connected.